We'd like to welcome back Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan to the program. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Ann. How are you?
I'm good. It's not a boring job, is it, Mayor Deegan?
It most certainly is not.
Our phones are open for callers as well. We welcome your questions and comments. Give us a call at 549-2937 or email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also message us on Facebook or Instagram or tag us on X at FCC On Air. So, Mayor Deegan, it took, nearly a decade of effort to get the Confederate monument removed from Springfield Park. So perhaps it's not a huge surprise that it continues to be controversial, even now that it's gone. What kind of reaction did you anticipate? And in retrospect, do you think that you maybe underestimated the political blowback?
Oh, well, I certainly didn't underestimate the political blowback. That's unfortunately one thing that has become quite predictable. But in terms of everything else, I think it went as well as it could have gone. We had an eye toward making sure that it came down safely and as much as we could anticipate and execute. And I'm just grateful that we were able to do it. I think if you look at what the Civic Council came out with a statement, the Chamber came out with a statement. These are Jacksonville leaders in the business community, in the civic community. It is just universally in that community accepted that this was a move that needed to happen for us to move forward as a city, not only to do the right thing, but to do the thing that is best for business and best for all of our citizens.
I have to ask you if you hear differently, kind of behind the scenes than you do publicly, because I have more than a sneaking suspicion that the city council members, even those who have been very vocal in opposing this, must just be delighted that this thing is off their plate and out of the park and not something that they have to sit through hours and hours of public comment about, or have to have additional meetings about.
Well, listen, I think that I don't want to betray any private conversation, but I certainly will say to you that I believe that to be true. Look, the city council had many, many years and frankly, many opportunities just since I've been mayor to take up this issue, even the opportunity to discuss the possibility of moving it to another place. But at the end of the day, politically, it was not something that this council wanted to do because, frankly, it's just not a politically popular thing on the side of the aisle that most of them come from. And so this does take the pressure off of them. And frankly, this entire insinuation that somehow the general counsel came to a crazy decision is just, I think it's just a lot of noise. And it's unfortunate. I think it shouldn't be happening, but this is politics as we know it, unfortunately.
So we actually had Jacksonville Council President Ron Salem on yesterday to talk about this issue. Here's a little bit of what he had to say on that topic.
The opinion was a draft agreement. It was not signed by the general counsel. It was not dated by the general counsel. He indicated that he was still making changes to it, and yet the mayor acted upon this, and we still do not have an opinion from the general counsel. I hope to have it today, but we're 2 weeks post the removal of the monument, and we don't have an opinion from him. And I need to reinforce, I am not litigating the monument coming down. I'm litigating the process that was used to take the monument down.
What about that, Mayor? The general counsel opinion not being signed or finalized, should you have waited for the final document before you acted on it?
Well, first of all, Ann, this is just another straw man argument. There has never been a requirement to have a document, period, much less a signed and delivered document. I could make any sort of decision based on the advice that I got from the general counsel, whether it was just oral advice or whether it was written advice. He specifically told the council he put things on paper for his own edification to show show himself how he was getting to the decision. And then he shared that information. And he also shared with the council that any changes he made would have not changed his final decision. And that is that there was nothing that would impede me to do this action. And so, it's interesting to me, and I have to bring this up because I do think it's very disingenuous. A couple of weeks earlier, when we were going for our $25 million, remember, for the transition committee, that had to go before council. And really at the last moment, something came up where it was questioned whether something we'd done since 2003, which was create a situation where there were 10 votes that had to be had for that. Our general counsel came out and said, you know what? The way I read the law, I think it really should be 13. Well, of course, Council President Salem didn't have any problem at all with that. That gave the council more power. I was not pleased at all because obviously a threshold of 13 votes is much harder to get than a threshold of 10. So you can't just take exception with the general counsel. If you really want him to be an honest broker, when he agrees with you only, you have to take it when he agrees with you and when he doesn't agree with you. And so in this instance, he happened to agree that I had the opportunity to do this, and that is why I did it. Had he not given me that ruling, I would not have done it. But at the end of the day, the general counsel sets those basically laws for the city.
Got a call, Regina from Mandarin. Good morning, Regina. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say congratulations to the mayor to have the courage to do this. Even going back before your administration, they said, the council, I don't know who it was that said if we had private funds, it could be taken down. I'm proud of you to have the courage to do this. And I think it's just another good old boys network thing that they're slamming you. Keep working at it. Keep doing it. Thanks for taking my call, and you have a good day.
Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And that's another thing, Ann. She brought up a great point. It was no secret that I was exploring with the general counsel this opportunity to be able to do this with private funds. This was not a secret. And so that while the date was not shared with the council, and that's another point that I need to make, nobody on council was informed. There were only a couple of people in my administration that even knew. So these insinuations that certain council people, because they showed up, knew, all absolutely false. Nobody knew except a couple of us. But at the end of the day, if council had wanted to receive another opinion, and they certainly have had folks within the general counsel's office who are willing to march to their orders from time to time, they could have done that, but they did not do that. They never even asked our general counsel that they unanimously approved for an opinion on that issue. Had they done that, they would have gotten the answer that I got. But there was not any interest in taking up this issue. I ran on the promise of taking these things down if I could. I was given the go-ahead that nothing impeded me from doing so, and I am happy they're down, and I hope we can move forward, as so many people in our community would like to see us do.
We've got a comment. Tom on Facebook says, Ron Salem is committing the number one mistake in politics. Politics is never personal. We also have a call from Janice from Jacksonville. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning. I would just like to thank the mayor so much for removing that, horrible monument. I mean, it's bad enough here in a state that's just hostile to people of color, and I do appreciate this removal of these symbols of white supremacy.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it, Janice. Mayor, was there any urgency on your part? I mean, I know you campaigned on this issue, but there was this legislation that's been introduced by Jacksonville Representative Dean Black that would impose sanctions on people, officials, mayors who took down Confederate monuments. It would actually order the restoration of monuments that were removed, any that were removed since 2017. Did that in any way propel your decision or your timetable for trying to accelerate the removal?
Look, this was really in my head from the moment that I got into office. And the week between Christmas and New Year's seemed to make sense after we got the decision that it would be quiet, that it would be the safest thing to do. And that's why we did it when we did it. Certainly, I can't say that wasn't in my head. Certainly, we all heard about that bill. But to be perfectly honest with you, Ann, every single legal expert that I have spoken to has said that bill is wholly unconstitutional. So I can't say that it actually played a role in when I took the monument down. But I do think that certainly this entire conversation around local control and what we're able to do is a conversation we need to continue to have. But one other point that I would like to make about all this, because there's been so much that's been said that's just not been true. I never asked Randy DeFore when I put her up for this position, or Michael Fackler when I put him up for this position, how they would rule on this issue. In the past, I'm just going to say, the general counsel has very much, often at least, acted as the mayor's attorney, even though it should be that it's the mayor's attorney and the council's attorney. The mayor pretty much has gotten the mayor's way with the general counsel. I came in and said to President Salem, and he said to me, we are both looking for somebody who will call balls and strikes, who can be an honest broker. And so the only qualifications I looked at were, is this person a qualified attorney? Are they well respected? Are they a good manager? All those things that you should be looking at. And the fact that now he is being criticized for being partisan is really, it's, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much that upsets me, because he's a good man, he is a fair man, and he came in to represent all of us fairly, and he's ruled on different issues in different ways, and people need to just I just think this whole histrionics around it is unfortunate and regrettable, and I think that our council is better than that.
I mean, I'm certainly not the only one who's thinking and has thought that perhaps if the council had approved Randy DeFore as your general counsel, as you'd initially hoped, that she might have come with a very different conclusion in terms of, this removal.
Well, she might have. You don't know until you ask. And I asked when it came up to the point where I was ready to look at it and take action, and I said, is this something that I can do? Is there an impediment to my doing this? And I think that Michael Fackler did a wonderful job of walking council through why he made the decision he made, and to see him attacked in the way that he was, and the way that he is still being attacked, is so regrettable. And I sincerely hope it's a heat of the moment political decision by this council that they will move away from. But I just I don't know how Randy DeFore would have ruled. But I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to take that monument down. And I also will say, this is a one-time thing, Ann. I think this current legislation that we're seeing, trying to take powers away from the mayor, is also regrettable. It's a knee-jerk to a one-time action. So let me just say it here. Not going to take down the Andrew Jackson statue. It's not a statue of white supremacy. Not planning to take anything down. This was the promise I made, was to take down this last monument to the Confederacy, and that is what I did.
That's interesting to hear you say that in the affirmative, because people have been raising questions about whether, that statue, that in particular, the Andrew Jackson statue, could be removed. I want to take a call from Brian in Riverside. I think he's got some concerns about the process. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, good morning. I just want to put it out there for record. I did not vote for Mayor Deegan. And with that said, anybody who was on the council when Mayor Curry took down the statue of Hemming in the similar process, but is now, hammering Mayor Deegan, they're laughable. Everybody knows it's an agenda, and it's not rooted in any principle. So with that, I just want the people in Jacksonville to know there are people, us on the right, so to speak, that laugh at the people that maybe carry our party or something like that. However, I've heard a couple of callers call in celebration of this, and I do want to caution everybody. Anytime you're talking about a process and powers you're going to give, you never, judge that when your person, quote unquote, is in office. You should always be doing that when somebody who thinks differently than you is. So this is a horrible precedent. I didn't agree with it when Mayor Curry did it. I don't agree with Mayor Deegan without having more involvement, because the next time we have a mayor in their second term who's not up for reelection, now we've supported the fiat for them to remove anything they want as long as they get donated money. And that's a bad precedent.
Good comment. Thank you, Brian. Mayor Deegan.
Well, like I said, I mean, I think you have to look at your mayor and what reasonableness they bring to a situation. If a city elects a mayor, and I was duly elected by the citizens of this city, they trust me to do what I believe is right for this city. Now, we're talking about the difference between raising private funds to do good things in this city and being able to go. There's a process here. If there's a revenue stream, then it has to go through the council. This was not a revenue stream. This was something that I used to be able to take an action. I do have under my purview the departments, under my purview many of the decisions that involve the parks. So you can argue this back and forth, but at the end of the day, people elect the mayor that they elect. We have a strong mayor form of government, and I think it would be nice to have a little bit of respect put on that fact. It's not every single decision that comes to the city of Jacksonville is not up to this city council exclusively. There are executive powers that belong to the mayor, and I think the mayor should be able to use those executive powers. If you don't like the way the mayor uses those executive powers, then you can elect another mayor. But when you elect a mayor in a strong form of a mayor's strong form of government, I think that the mayor should have the opportunity to use those executive powers, and that is what I did. And hopefully, people trust my judgment. But certainly, there are going to be people with different opinions on this. I heard plenty from the folks on all sides of this issue before I decided to make this decision. I spent many hours with them, and I explained my position. I'm not trying to vilify anyone's ancestors. That's not what this is about. This is about when you know better, you do better, and what do we do the best to move our city forward, both for our citizens, everybody, all of our citizens, and for business. And this was the best decision to make. And if people don't agree with that, as I said, there's the ballot box.
Mayor Donna Deegan is taking your calls and comments this morning. You can reach us at 549-2937. You can send an email to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, or you can reach out via social media, be it X or Instagram or Facebook. We have an email from Paul. He says, I'm sure that when Nick Howland and Ron Salem are shaving in the morning, they see a future mayor in their mirror. When I look at them, I just see forgotten former councilmen. They are on the wrong side of history and dredging up the same kinds of arguments as opposed school integration will not serve them well in their respective and brief legacies. We also have a call, Mike in Mandarin. Good morning, Mike. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Thanks, Ann. I appreciate it. I just want to say, Mayor Deegan, your leadership in the city has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for removing that Confederate monument in Ben Fraser Park. And just wanted to see what your plans were for community-wide meetings to discuss the removal of other monuments, markers, symbols, and names that glorify the Confederacy, racism, segregation, and all forms of oppression. Northside Coalition has recommended this, as has the Civic Council, and the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund even was going to put up $100,000 to sponsor that. So are you planning to do that kind of thing going forward?
Well, what I would like to do right now is I'd like to have a community. I'd like to have some charrettes, a community discussion. We've actually already spoken with Council President Salem about this. We'd like to have a community discussion of what we do next with the park. I'd like for that park to become a symbol of unity. I would like for that to be, it is one of the spaces that is in the most, the oldest part of our city, and I'd love to see that become a symbol of unity. In that, it is a neighborhood that is largely Black, but also mixed, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to all say we are together in one voice, lifting as we climb in this city, and that's what I'd like to see us do next. I think that, as I said before, in terms of the Andrew Jackson statue, look, every one of our former presidents, were, in the early days anyway, were slave owners. That is something that we have to deal with. They were flawed human beings, as we are all flawed human beings. But that particular statue is not a monument to the Confederacy. That was my concern, and so to me, that needed to come out of that mostly Black neighborhood, and now we need to have a discussion of how we move forward in that park. And if the council ever wants to have a discussion on taking those statues that came out of that park and moving them to a museum or someplace that's more appropriate, I'm certainly open to having that discussion as well.
It's an issue that continues to take up a lot of oxygen. I do want to move on and take up a couple of other issues. So, Mayor Deegan, there's been some changes in your own office since we last spoke. The departure, and I would say sudden, unexpected departure of Chief of Staff Pat McCullough. You've been friends for years. She had a very prominent role in your campaign. She was the first Black woman to be Chief of Staff in the mayor's office. Where is she? Where is she now, and where is she headed?
Well, she is still with us. Pat will be taking on a new role, and we're still in discussions about exactly what that's going to look like. But Pat is going to stay on, and I'm happy to have her continue on with us. She's played a vital role in this administration. As you know, Ann, you have a finite amount of time to move your agenda, and I think that if you look at any sort of mayoral administration, that very often there is some transition and some shuffling that goes on, and we just felt like right now that in this particular job, in this particular position, we thought Darnell Smith gave us a great deal of experience in places where we needed in that regard, and of course Pat has and continues to be and will continue to be an amazing part of our staff, and she will be continuing along with the city.
So let's talk a little bit about Darnell Smith. He's going to be an interim replacement, an executive on loan from Florida Blue. Darnell Smith is a well-known entity in this community, very well respected. But it does seem unusual to have somebody that is going to be paid by an outside vendor working for city government. And I know that you've said publicly this has been done before, but
many times.
How have you addressed that with him in terms of making sure that the role that he's playing in city government is truly in service of just the government and, isn't bound by the person who's signing his paychecks?
Have you met Darnell Smith, Ann? I mean, this is a guy that I think is universally respected for not only his experience, but his integrity and his love for this city. One of the very first things that both he and Pat Garrity said to me was, I want you to understand that this will be my total focus. And Pat has said there will be absolutely no connection between Darnell and Florida Blue in terms of decisions that are made during that period of time. So, it is something, as I said, that has been done many, many times in our city. And with Florida Blue in the past, there are no current contracts that are up with Florida Blue. In fact, there are no contracts that are up for many years with Florida Blue in the city. So there wouldn't be a need for Darnell to do that, even if he wanted to. But he does not. He is completely focused on being the chief of staff of the city. And I'm going to tell you, just in the week that he has been there, has really already made an incredible impact. So I'm extraordinarily excited about having him involved, and I think he's going to be a wonderful addition to the city.
We've got a call. Chuck from the Beaches. Good morning, Chuck. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. I just want to say congratulations, Mayor Deegan. I hope this new year has been treating you well in your role. And I just wanted to ask, I know 2024 is a big year for the entire country. And I know there was a lot of contention with last election as far as election integrity goes and stuff like that. And I just wanted to see here in Jacksonville, this upcoming primary, if there were any set plans to just ensure election integrity in the 2024 primaries and presidential election.
Thanks for that, Chuck. Yeah, listen, I think that when you go back and you look at Florida's election process, and we said it, so many times, so much of that is again just political talking points. Frankly, we have very secure elections in the state of Florida, and even as we've continued to try to squeeze the process and make it harder for people to vote in certain instances, there has never been any indication that on any sort of a widespread fashion that there's any sort of election integrity problem in Jacksonville or in the state of Florida. So, I hope we don't get lost in all that. Probably, and the most frustrating part of this job, if there is a frustrating part for me, is dealing with the politics. And I know that sounds funny because it is a political job, but I'm so solution oriented that when things defer into this sort of area that I think is frankly more of a waste of our time given what we know about our election process, it's frustrating for me. But I know people have concerns about it. All I can tell you is that our systems in Jacksonville and our systems in Florida are incredibly secure, and that has been borne out over and over again.
So one of your policy goals is rebooting the Jacksonville journey. You've just recently appointed Charles Griggs to be the new director of community initiatives after Lakeisha Burton had to resign because of her husband's health. When it comes to rebooting the Jacksonville journey, how will you measure its success? Will it be by a decline in the city's homicide rate? How will you measure it?
Well, I think there are all kinds of ways because remember, the Journey is a crime prevention and intervention initiative that has a lot of components. One of those is literacy. So I think that we'll be able to measure, how are we doing in terms of that literacy piece? Are we actually making it so that more of our kids are reading at grade level? As you know, less than half of our third graders in Duval are reading on grade level. So that's why we've launched this citywide literacy program, which is part of the Journey. That's kicking off on the 27th, by the way, and we're going to be kicking off something at the main library with thousands of free books and lunch and all sorts of stuff. So I hope folks will join us for that. But that's one piece, and so what you have to understand from my perspective as mayor, I don't control the particular on the ground crime fighting policies. That's the venue of the mayor. Of the sheriff. He was elected to do that job. What I can do is work on the more long-term solutions, and those solutions have more to do with issues like literacy, issues like making sure that we are addressing issues of poverty in our community. That goes back to things like affordable housing. It goes back to some of those issues of access. It's why we've made healthcare such a high priority. So all of this, whether it's ostensibly, you look at it and say that's crime prevention. To me, anything that you do to try to make your citizens' lives better and to give them more tools to be successful is a crime fighter. But that may be something that is longer on the horizon to realize than something in a couple of years. Now, I do have an initiative that I just started with the sheriff, where we are launching public service announcements to try to get people to secure their weapons. Responsible gun owners need to be able to understand how to secure those weapons so that they can't be accessed to be used in a crime. And I think the sheriff said that one weapon sometimes turns over as much as 6 times once it is taken or on the street. And that's something that we need to make sure that we at least don't help to happen. So there are pieces of this, but there's a lot of pieces to that journey. And I think that Charles Graves is going to be fantastic. He was integral in the first time that we had the Jacksonville Journey. And so I think he will not only bring a great deal of institutional knowledge to that, but I think he's very, very passionate about this initiative.
We've got a call. Herman from the North Side. Good morning. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Good morning, Madam Mayor plus Ann. Congratulations on the new assignments. My question would be consolidation. Are there any counties in the Summit County radius, are really any parts of the community who feel that they need you to go back and visit consolidation because they may not be getting the proper financial, incentives from consolidation? If so, who are they? And also, has consolidation really been a great friend to the North Side? Thanks for.
Oh gosh, we would probably need hours to talk over all the pluses and minuses of consolidation. I guess I would say in an abbreviated fashion that I think that as a whole it's been a plus. I think that we have to very intentionally, and I said this, I've been saying this for years as well. I think we need to very intentionally focus on promises that we have broken through consolidation. And so I do think that is a focus that needs to be had. I think that is why you see this administration focus so much on infrastructure and on our older neighborhoods. You're talking about the downtown. You're talking about the urban core. You're talking about the east side and the north side, the northwest side. Those are all areas of town, to an extent, the west side that have been largely put on the back burner through consolidation. And these were the very communities that were promised to have those issues resolved with consolidation. Give up some of your power, and we'll make sure those issues are resolved. And so we are absolutely focused on making sure that we fulfill those broken promises, and that's probably something that will go far beyond my administration. But I do think that we have to be very, very intentional in some of those issues, and that's why you're seeing the focus from me on a lot of those older neighborhoods in the city of Jacksonville. I think those are the ones that have been hurt the most by consolidation, frankly.
Mayor, I want to ask you about one bright spot that's coming up later this week, the MLK Unity Breakfast. this is going to be for the first time in 5 years, as we've noted, that has not been divided into sort of competing breakfasts, but in fact will be one event to honor Martin Luther King Jr. What will you be doing to honor the life of MLK on that day or on that following Monday when the holiday is?
Well, I'm very excited about the opportunity to have one breakfast. I think that speaks volumes for our city, and I'm so grateful to all of our community partners, and including the Chamber and the NAACP for coming together to make that happen. That's going to be we're going to celebrate the day at the breakfast at the Prime Osborne Convention Center, which I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. The last I heard, there were a handful of tickets left for that, so I'm hoping that people will make sure that that room is absolutely bursting to show our commitment to having one MLK breakfast. Very, very excited about that. But also, we've extended it, Ann, to create an MLK week of service. Something that I think council is very excited about too, and the city is very excited about. And folks can sign up for dozens of projects that are out there, just waiting for volunteers to sign up. So people can go to the United Way, nefl.org/MLK. I know that's long, but we can provide that for you to sign up for any number of service projects. I'm going to probably be out on the north side on a service project on Monday. I do have to go to. I'm going to be in Tallahassee for Duval Days come Monday and Tuesday. But I will absolutely make sure that I am taking part in one of those projects before I head out.
And speaking of Duval Day, the legislative session gets underway today. What bills are you closely watching, if any? And does the city take a hit in the fact that you're a Democrat and the House and the Senate and the governor's office are all led by Republicans?
Well, I can tell you that I've had some great meetings with Paul Renner, with Mr. Garrison, and others. I've tried to develop good relationships across the aisle. I feel like I don't know how many times I can say it, Ann. I am solutions oriented for the city of Jacksonville, and I think that people know that. When they meet with me, they understand that I really want to just make sure that we're moving the city forward. And I've had great meetings with them, and I intend to have some more great meetings when we go up to Tallahassee on Monday. But look, here's the thing. I think what I'm most concerned about is what I've always been most concerned about in recent years, and that is, frankly, the effort to usurp what local governments can do with their own funds and their own, power. I think it is. Frankly, if council wants to be concerned about an overreach of power, they should look no further than Tallahassee, where we have seen bill after bill after bill take away our ability to rule locally. Our charter specifically says we have that opportunity. So it is very concerning to me, this bill that once again is coming up that would affect the JEA. We're hoping to have some meetings about that. I think that's what I'm probably most focused on, at least in terms of something that I think would impact our city budget incredibly negatively. That's a couple $100 million impact right there. So I think that's probably one of the issues that I'll be most focused on when I go up on Monday.
And to be clear, that's a bill that would allow some changes in the amount of money that a municipally owned utility can provide a local government, as JEA does here, to the tune of many millions of dollars.
Well, and it's a city-owned utility. So why is the state going to tell us what we can do in terms of our city finances with an entity that we own? It just seems like an overreach to me. But that has become what we have come to expect from Tallahassee. I mean, name instance after instance. And I just, if we are going to have elected local officials, those officials are in the best possible position. Myself, the council. To do the things that are best for that city. We were duly elected by our citizens, and it shouldn't be that all those decisions are taken away from us and usurped by the state of Florida. That's just, in my opinion, wrong, and I hope that will not happen again this year.
Well, we'll be watching the developments in Tallahassee. Good luck when you are out there on Monday, and thank you, Mayor Donna Deegan, so much for being here.
You bet, Ann. Thanks for having me.